In today's video we are going to take another look at a WE-knife model, semi-new release I would say. The last video I made we showed WE-knife diatomic, the dagger styled dual pocket clip folding knife. Quite a interesting design from a few different perspectives. This model, however, is a lot more straightforward, I would say, especially compared to the diatomic. So I got two different versions here. None of them is the Damasteel version because, let's see if I can get this right. WE-knife work with Heimskringla Damasteel and Hakkapella Damasteel, and one of those I do not prefer, and that was used for the Riff-Raff, so I kind of decided to not go with it. But I do have one knife here, I think it's this one, is going to be with blue scales and hand-rubbed satin finish, or hand-rubbed finish. This one is going to be a black stonewash finish with bronze scales. So let's do a bit of a regular unboxing, real fast. I'm just going to unbox one of the knives because, well, we know the contents are going to be more or less identical aside from the knife. So let's do a unboxing and let's remove one of these. I'm going to unbox the blue version, I think, here. So your typical WE-knife packaging. This one is not a limited release, which can be seen on the box here. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. Paper sleeve or cardboard sleeve. Typical WE-knife box. Let's see if we can get the contents out here. So for those curious about the text here, etc., you can press pause now and read it, or I can read it for you. It just says Riff-Raff, blue titanium handle, hand-rubbed satin, CPM 20 CV blade. CPM 20 CV seems to be kind of the only steel, aside from Damasteel, that WE-knife is working with these days. So your typical WE-knife paperwork here, a ERGOS sticker, piece of cloth, sticker, social media stuff, and some silica gel. And then we have your typical WE-knife pouch, which I really appreciate. You can carry two knives in it, one here and one up here, should you want to. And then we have, of course, the knife itself. But I'm gonna put away all this stuff here and yeah, focus on the interesting part here. So let's put this back here. Piece of cloth and all the other contents as well. And there we go. Fast unboxing, but I mean I've made my share of WE-knife videos and doing some unboxings, and I mean it's all pretty much the same aside from the knife. So here we have the knife then. One of the versions that I decided to go with. My first knife with blue titanium scales, I believe. I don't have a whole lot of blue knives. Let's see if we can get a bit more of a close-up perhaps. we can see right away that, this is not a super large knife, and it seems to be pretty, straightforward, right? Might have to, I think we're actually gonna zoom in just a little bit here. We are now slightly more zoomed in, which I think will work better when we go over the design and the specs and all that. So obviously this is a knife utilizing thumb studs for opening. There is no flipper tab or any other means of opening this knife. There is no fuller or anything you can use. So you will have to go with the thumb studs. Luckily they seem to be working just fine. So this is what the hand rubbed satin blade looks like, and the blue titanium handle. You know what, before we go over the specs and everything, maybe we should take a look at the other version as well, just so you can get a sense of the aesthetics of that one. So I'm gonna put this one aside for now so we can focus on the other one. So here we have the version with the bronze finish scales and black stonewash blade. Let's see if we can get a semi-good look at it. So I do try to bring some variety into my videos when possible. Let's see if this one, yeah, lightning fast opening action, just the way we want. So hopefully you can get a sense here of the aesthetics. Black stonewash blade, bronze thumb studs, bronze handle, bronze clip, bronze back spacer as well, and bronze hardware. Or like, yeah, gold bronze hardware. A bit more shine to it than the more matte bronze finish of the actual scales. So let's do it both perhaps. Still not sure about my pick here of the blue one. Perhaps I should have gone with the grey version or even the Dama steel, but that was sold out, so couldn't get it. And like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I am not the biggest fan of that particular Dama steel, but it's all, personal preferences. Still, I mean, both knives look really good in my opinion, and very different. So I mean, they do complete each other in some sense. Yeah, and I think we're gonna stay with the satin version, hand-rubbed satin version, when we go over the design and the specifications. So I'm gonna remove this one for now. Like I say, I mean, really nice opening closing action, almost hydraulic. Nice solid lockup on this one. No blade play, and the centering of this one is spot on. So I mean, fit and finish on this one, really good. Yeah, so now we can move this one away for the time being. Let's crunch some numbers before we dive into the ergonomics and other design aspects of the Riff-Raff. So first off, titanium scales and CPM 20 CV blade. I mean, that is what we see on most Wii knives. That is what we have seen on most Wii knives in quite some time, to be honest. We've got a overall length here of 185 millimeters, so 18.5 centimeters in total length. We've got a blade length of, I think it's specified to 79, but I guess we could just say 80 millimeters in blade length. So that's 8 centimeters. And we've got a closed length here of, I believe, 106 millimeters. I mean, it is definitely not, the biggest knife we've seen on this channel. I would rate this one as a small to medium sized folding knife. We've got a blade thickness. Let's see if you can get a good look here. A blade thickness specified to 3.2. I was going to say 3.5, but I think it is actually 3.2 millimeters. And I guess that could be the same spine thickness as, for example, the Cepheus and the Exiton, now that I think about it. The weight of this knife is specified to 97 grams. It's below 100, so not a very heavy knife. Unsure if there's any internal milling, but it should. Yeah, there is definitely internal milling on this side, and also a bit of internal milling on the other side. I'll see if we can get it in the camera. It's not always that easy to make it visible. If you can't see it, you will just have to, like, you know, take my word for it. But there is internal milling. You could perhaps see it now. Might be tricky. See how that affects the balance point of the knife. So pretty well balanced knife, I would say. Right here at the finger groove area is where we find the balance point. So we know the balance is on point. How about the general ERGOS here? So first off, I wear size 10 in gloves, fairly large hands, and this is a small knife, but placing the knife in my hand looks like this. So we do have a full 4-finger grip with some area to spare. There are no really sharp corners here. And the ERGOS in my hand, it is a very comfortable knife, and it feels very secure in this grip. You can also place your thumb there on this well, I'm going to call it a thumb ramp here. We also have some additional jimping here. And this feels quite nice. The blade here, it is, as you can see, a clip point design. There are some interesting grind lines here. A swedge grind going here. Not a very thin swedge, however. And it also is a clip point with a harpoon style grind, I guess we could call it. And then there's a flat grind, of course. And this part here of the top part here of the, let's call it the harpoon grind, it feels a little bit here on my thumb. Not a big deal, but you can definitely feel it if you press your thumb against it. The jimping is not, too aggressive, but gives you a secure grip. But the only area is this part of the harpoon that is a little bit, not really sharp, but it's not rounded, if I put it like that. But you do get quite a secure grip in your hand holding the knife like this. But you can just skip it as well. In a reverse grip, the knife feels very comfortable, actually. Secure and comfortable, most definitely. So despite being a small knife and I having large hands, it fits like a glove. Really, really solid, nice grip. No doubt about that. So what more can we say here about the general knife design? We got some grooves here that are milled in a titanium. Probably most for looks, I would say. You don't feel it anyway. It's not sharp or anything like that, but it doesn't provide you any extra grip. I mean, the grip you get from this knife is from the actual, the groove and the design of the scales. I would say that this is for mere looks, and it is on both sides. You do have this backspacer, which is actually a little bit interesting, sort of like, what could we call this, like a staircase almost, not really, but a nice pattern, making the design a little bit more interesting. I mean, this is a kind of a plain looking handle of sorts. But there is, of course, interesting stuff going on with the blade. We never took a look here at the centering and or any blade. I mean, let's see. There's no blade play. The opening and closing action, we already know that is very swift, very nice, as with the bronze version with the stonewash blade. I would say it is just as fast opening, and the closing action is, well, the closing action was perhaps a little more hydraulic on the other version, but this one still closes with ease and a satisfying sound as well. The centering on this particular one is spot on. Hopefully you can see it here on the camera. And there is no lock stick, and the lockup on this one is, I think the lockup is a little bit earlier on this one than on the bronze black version. I would say that the lockup here is around like 20-ish%, something like that. Compared to, I'm gonna bring this one out again just to get a look here. Yeah, so this is more like 40%-ish, something like that. Maybe we can get them actually both side by side here in terms of lockup, if we can just get the focus working. Well, that seems to be easier said than done, but like 35-40%, this is more like 20%. Both of them are I mean, it's no issue. I mean, I generally prefer a bit earlier lockup, but 20-30%, yeah, it's not a big deal, really. Yeah, 40%, 30-40%, yeah. So, let's get back to this one now. What have we not mentioned here? Blue dual thumb studs, yeah, the pocket clip. I mean, the pocket clip is quite basic, as you can see. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. We have no lanyard hole on this one, same as with the Atomic we took a look at last time. There was no lanyard hole on that one either. And for me that is definitely no deal breaker, since I never use lanyards on folders nor fixed blades. But for those of you that do, well, on this one you will not be able to use that, pretty much. So what more can we say in terms of specifications and general design? I mean, I think that the guy who designed this one is also the person that designed the Riff-Raff Thug. I never got the Thug, but I can definitely see, you know, this one being from the same designer. But to me, this one is a more practical and, well, in my humble opinion, also a more, well, stylish looking knife than the Riff-Raff Thug. But like I said, it's pure personal preferences. But you get that same, you know, compact feeling that you do with the Thug, which I don't own, but that I can see from photos and videos alike. Let's do a bit of a sharpness test now, shall we? See how the factory edge holds up. Riff-Raff have been doing a pretty good job with their factory edges lately, so I hope this one will cut nicely and slice nicely. Okay, I know there are a few YouTubers out there that usually do not test the sharpness of the knives they review. And I have always found that to be a little bit strange. And it's not like you're gonna damage the edge by slicing some printing paper or newspaper. I mean, if you're talking edges on more high-end knives, I mean, those steels are made to have, you know, really good edge retention, to be, you know, kind of tough, kind of strong, etc. So it surprises me a little bit. And I know that some people will say that, well, I mean, slicing some printing paper, slicing some newspaper, well, that won't say anything about, you know, the sharpness in general or something like that. But I just don't really get that kind of reasoning, because it will tell me that people put in some effort and time in making sure the knife was delivered with a sharp edge. And that is something that I appreciate and that I want when I buy well, especially an expensive knife or a high-end knife. Sure, I can always put on my own edge, I have no troubles doing that, but should I have to when I buy a new knife? Well, I think not, and I think that's an invalid argument saying that, well, people will put on their own edges. Well, I'm not reviewing what I can't put on the knife, I am reviewing what the knife came with from the factory. And if I for example, like now with wee knives, if I try out a lot of different wee knives and they all have a high level of sharpness, well, it says me something about consistency from that maker or that company. So I do think there is a good valid point in actually doing a sharpness test. After all, a knife is a cutting tool. I mean, it is a collector's object as well, but even as a collector's object, I would want my knives to be able to cut. A knife that is delivered with a dull edge, well, that's gonna get a negative or bad review from me. That is how simple it is. So with that being said, we're gonna do my regular slicing test here of printing paper and newspaper. And we're gonna start with the printing paper. So let's see how this one performs now, slicing some regular printing paper. I mean, the amount of paper you slice, I mean, sure, you don't have to sit and slice the paper for hours on end. I mean, we have already proven that this one can slice printing paper, but I do like because it's kind of therapeutic. But I'm also gonna do now the black and bronze version here, so you can see it's for some consistency again, since we have two of the same model. So I guess it could be interesting, right? And this is interesting because I can feel right away that this one is sharper than the blue one. But both are very nice, very sharp. Both ones will slice paper. But even so, I can feel a difference in sharpness between the two. And this one is in fact the sharper one. But they both have a very high level of sharpness. So let's proceed to newspaper, and this is not my typical newspaper. This seems to be even thinner than what I usually cut in my newspaper test, so we'll see how this performs. So the blue version will go first. Yeah, so this one will obviously slice newspaper quite nicely. And like before, we're gonna go with the bronze and black version as well, which should have no issues, since we know this is, in my opinion, or well, it is not actually my opinion, it is more objectively so that this knife is sharper, so it should perform even better. Then again, that being said, we have seen different knives do different, well, with different types of paper. But I will say that this one slices the newspaper very, very nicely. Yeah. So, turn the newspaper into confetti. So what this tells me right now is that wee knife is doing a really good job on their factory edges. These knives are sharp. I'm not gonna shave any leg hair or arm hair or anything, but I'm sure this one would do it just fine. So if you do get a Riff-Raff, for example, now, they should be really sharp from my experience and my testing, both of the model itself, but also of wee knives in general. So, time for some quick conclusions here of the Riff-Raff. So this is a small to medium sized knife in high quality materials, titanium and CPM 20 CV. The knife may not, look like much at first glance. When I saw it first, I felt like it was a little bit uninteresting of sort. I mean, the design, it didn't really, do it for me personally. But I still felt like I wanted one. Mainly due to the blade design here, which is of a clip point harpoon style with some interesting swedge grinds. So a compact knife with some interesting blade design elements to it. Also offered in a few different versions, as with all wee knives, I should perhaps say. So, this knife, when we have gone over it now, the specs, the ERGOS and the overall designs, I've come to the conclusion that it is a very ergonomical knife. Very secure grip, be it in standard grip, using the thumb ramp, or using a reverse grip. Not that I use a reverse grip very often. The balance point is right at the finger groove, right where we want it, thanks to some internal milling of the handle. More so, the knives are very sharp, and that is something we have seen from WeKnife recently. They have really upped their sharpness game, in my opinion. Then again, I was out of the loop for a while, but all the knives that I have reviewed lately, be it the Magneton, the Diatomic, the Cepheus, the Exciton, and so on, they have all been very sharp. And like I mentioned when I did my sharpness test in this video, this black version is slightly sharper than the blue version, but they are both very, very sharp knives. Opening and closing action on both knives is great. Like I said, fit and finish, I mean centering and everything is spot on. I did notice a bit of a difference in lockup here, where this black version locks up at around 40%, I would say, whereas the blue version here has a bit of a more early lockup at around 20%. I generally prefer early lockups, but 20 will do, 30 will do, 40 will do. I mean, even 50 will work as well. But I definitely prefer to be around, like, let's say 25 to 30. But yeah, not a big thing, really. So if you are looking for a small, compact knife, light knife, or well, semi-light, at least it's under 100 grams by mere 3 grams, but still, then this knife could be for you. And I mentioned before in the video, but I'm still not 100% certain, that the designer of this knife, the Riff-Raff, is the same designer of the WeKnife Thug. And the Thug, that was not really for me, but I know a lot of people appreciated that knife, and I feel like this knife has a lot of, that kind of vibe, that kind of, compactness, etc. But to me, this is, I mean, don't be fooled by the looks here. I mean, like, this one isn't, really a very stylish knife. There are no special inlays or anything. I mean, there are just some random, I mean, this milling is actually kind of random. It feels, it's just for pure aesthetics, really, and it's not that cool looking, but I mean, they did do something. And the backspacer is, well, I mean, it's not really the coolest backspacer, but I always appreciate a backspacer with some milling to it. So there are small, small things that they try to do to make the knife more interesting. But the selling point here to me is the blade design and the ERGOS. Like I mentioned, the pocket clip, no fancy pocket clip, but it is practical. And there is no lanyard hole, so for those of you that really want to use lanyards with your folding knives, well, that could potentially be a bit of an issue. But like I stated in the video, I rarely, I never use lanyards. Not with my folding knives, nor with my fixed blades. But all in all, a compact knife, a sharp knife, a very ergonomical knife with superb opening and closing action. Really fast, lightning fast opening action. And this one is perhaps not quite as, hydraulic as this one is. This one is a little bit, more full shotty. Then again, I mean, both knives are brand new, so maybe that will, wear in with time. But these are, in my opinion, easy recommendations. The price is, I think the price is right for this model. I think it's fairly priced. So I guess that kind of concludes my Riff-Raff video, and I actually think I will try to get my hands on the Damasteel version, despite them using a specific type of Damasteel that I am not too fond of. I prefer the Damasteel that they use on the Cepheus, but right now I'm kind of mixing up if it is the Heimskringla or the Hakkapella, One of them I like, one of them I'm not, really the biggest fan of. But Riff-Raff, small, compact, ergonomical, sharp, stylish in some sense, but in a more minimalistic way. I do recommend this knife. Definitely, a practical knife that will see some use. And that should be used. I mean, this knife was made to be put to some use, definitely. The Riff-Raff.